Greetings and salutations, folks. My name is Nick, and welcome back to Demon's Souls, where today we may or may not be killing a dragon. First, we need to figure out whether we can actually hit this thing. Okay, yes, we can. Alright, so this is going to be a very long, very repetitive, and very arduous process. Okay, it looks like I can possibly hit him at least a guaranteed once. So maybe that's what I'm gonna do. And during this time, I'd like to talk about repetition in video games. Because this is a very repetitive act. Now, technically, I don't have to do this. I don't. The game isn't making me do this. I can progress without it. But the game is rewarding me for killing the dragon. There is a reward at the end. There is the dragon's soul. There is... let's say him a little bit to the right. There is whatever items that are in his path of fire. Alright, that's not a bad spot. There is safety when it comes to crossing this bridge, if I ever so happen to choose to go this direction. But ultimately, it is a very repetitive act. The closest Souls analog I can think of would be the dragon in Dark Souls 1. In Dark Souls 1, there are two fights against the dragon, really. The first is when you remove the dragon's tail, which takes, I want to say, roughly about 30 arrows. Which... I don't know. Like, is that necessarily considered a repetitive act or a secret thing you can do and get a reward? Like, this is going to take me much longer than 30 arrows to get through. And it's going... but at the same time, it's going to be just as repetitive, because when you're trying to destroy the dragon's tail in Dark Souls 1, the dragon is constantly moving, so you can't just unload arrows until you're done. Part of destroying the tail is almost knowing that you're going to get a reward out of it. But you do get a reward, and it is a weapon that is fairly strong for your level. Later on, you can choose to fight the dragon on his own terms, using the dragon-slaying bow. But that itself is already got more going on than this fight. Because this dragon isn't really trying to fight back. He's just going through his loop. He doesn't care about the insignificant arrows that repeatedly pelt against his flesh. You could also say that this is very much akin to bullet sponge bosses. The spongiest of bosses. And I would say it's probably closer to that. Simply because a bullet sponge boss suffers most, not because it takes a million hits to defeat, but because of the lack of variety of strategies and tactics. Like, you can have a boss that goes on for a while, but that's what phases are for. Like, phases give the illusion of progress. If there was a phase 1 and a phase 2 and a phase 3, then you wouldn't necessarily worry too much about the fact that phase 1 only chipped away 33% of their health, then phase 2 only chipped away another 33%. But if there's only one phase from start to finish, and you're just kind of slowly chipping away the entire time, then it doesn't feel like you're making progress. In fact, you can even hide that illusion by presenting the boss with multiple health bars, because that really, really kind of like hides the fact that, okay, the boss still has tons of health, but it feels like you're making progress because you're going through each phase, and each phase has its own health bar. But when you've got a boss who's just kind of going through his motions, going through his loop, like, that's when it feels like a sponge, and not exactly like a challenge for the player. Which makes this very odd in regards to its placement in the game. Although I would argue that for its time, for Demon Souls, the placement of this boss is less about the developers wondering whether or not they could, or should I say, whether or not they should, and more if they could. I already got that Jurassic Park quote wrong. Because at the time, like, there wasn't... Like, Dark Souls had a model to build off of. Though I suppose you could say Demon Souls had a different model to build off of, but that was the first-person game that From Software made that I do not remember the title of. But that model was more of that first-person thing. They didn't really have the model that is this exactly. So the fact that they even got this dragon to function at the time is itself a feat. The problem is it's not really doing anything interesting, which, in comparison, like, have you ever played Order 1886? Order 1886 is a game that looks pretty. It's very visually stunning. The story and the world that you explore is actually pretty interesting. The gameplay is very basic cover-based shooting, which would have been fun. One of my favorite games on the 360 is a relatively basic cover-based shooter, and it excels because of its story, its character, and that is Spec Ops: The Line. But the Order 1886 suffers more from its terrible boss fights, its use of quick time events, and its werewolf fights. Whenever you fight a werewolf in the Order, all they really do is they just run straight at you, and then you shoot them. And then they run away. And then they repeat that loop over and over again until the beast is defeated. A friend of mine recently played through that game, and my comment was, like, if they replaced those sequences with nothing, the game would have been better off. Which takes us to Demon Souls. It almost feels as though the dragon sequences here don't really have a proper ending. Technically, they should have, because there is a dragon you fight. There are 3 dragons, actually, in this game. There's the blue dragon, there's the red dragon, and then there's the bigger red dragon. But the blue dragon and the red dragon both are kind of like non-bosses, because they don't really have strategies. They're just loops. The big red dragon is its own sequence, and is its own discussion in itself. But I would almost take the same approach as Order 1886. If the red dragon and the blue dragon weren't here in this game, Demon Souls would have been better off. Imagine this scenario. The only dragon is the big red dragon. The dragon shows up in the first level of this game, as normally this dragon does, and occupies the same space as the blue and red dragon. Then, the big dragon shows up to attack you on the bridge, much like this dragon does. However, the main difference is you still fight that big dragon in the same sequence at the end of World 2. And that clears up the skies above the bridge. That clears up the skies above the bridge, that clears up the place where the blue dragon is currently sitting at. I suppose there is an issue in that the blue dragon does show up later to attack you, but you can argue. I would argue that is also just an exercise in repetition. You're just kind of going through those same motions that you've defeated, that you've made through before. You're not really adding meaningful gameplay by providing a repetitive method, a repetitive fight. Though, gaming itself has a lot of roots in repetition. Though it's important to realize that a lot of those roots, a lot of the repetition needs to be unique in order for it to stand out. Think about Mario. In Mario games, starting from Mario 64, going to Mario Odyssey, Mario likes to collect things. Usually stars. It's always stars. Sometimes it's moons, though. And with Super Mario Odyssey, it feels like there is a moon, every 2 feet from each other. But what I think makes Mario Odyssey and Mario 64 stand out is that every collection thing, everything you collect, is dependent on a specific challenge. You perform a challenge to get a thing, and usually those challenges are very short. They're usually very short. They're usually very planned out. You climb a mountain and defeat a boss. You race somebody. You collect some coins. You collect different coins. You carry a penguin to its mother. Whereas this task is mindless. I'm in my proper position. I have spent way too many souls on arrows, as you can see. I clearly don't even need the 500 arrows plus that I brought to this mess. And will I necessarily feel accomplished when the day is done? Or will I just be, okay, that's done, I don't have to worry about that again? Probably more of the latter than the former. Especially in comparison to other Demon Souls bosses. And even enemies. Even the Tower Knight, who is a fairly simple boss, still requires movement, tactics to defeat. So I suppose in that note, I would propose a second method of dealing with this game's excess of dragons. Now, when it comes to dealing with the big dragon, there's a very specific sequence you're supposed to do in order to beat it. You harpoon him a couple times, and I think you harpoon him again. And that brings him down. It's less of a boss fight and more of a just a sequence of events you have to activate. So in theory, you could almost say that a similar thing should have occurred here. Like, imagine if each tower on this bridge held the ballista. There are 3 towers, I believe. You climb up to the first tower and you find the ballista. And you launch the arrow into the dragon, and that knocks off a third of his health. And then you repeat that process twice more. You wouldn't necessarily think about how repetitive the process is because you're already doing other things while you are going from one ballista to the next. And once you fire that final shot, the dragon is killed. It'll feel like you accomplished something, while also tying the defeat of the dragon with progress. Rather than just having just a loop of slowly lowering his health down to nothing. And then you can go back down the bridge, pick up items that you would have missed, and be able to move on. It's not like you're going to... Like, the game doesn't require you to be here again. So, by having progression tied to defeat of the dragon. Oh, there he goes. Like, that would have enabled the fight to probably feel more meaningful than have me fight him and then just say, there he goes, when he's done. A winged spear. Alright. Let us go through, pick up some items, because we have cleared the dragon out of the way. He is dead, and everybody is happy. Children are cheering for us. Actually, no, they're also dead. Everything is dead. This is Demon Souls we're playing. Ow. I find in Demon Souls, I constantly, one of the mistakes I tend to make is I constantly do the alternate attack for your weapon. Ooh, a spiked shield. I want to say I liked this one more, because that does damage. And I want to say that also is 100% physical reduction. But I am not... Is that dexterity? I'm not dexterous enough to use it. So let us put it aside for now. Ow. I had my shield up. Oh my gosh, Jesus. Alright, let's back up. I had my shield up. But I was pointed at the guy who was directly in front of me, and he passed me by. And because of that, I ended up turning my back towards the enemy. But luckily, I did not die. And if I did, I mean, I'm already dead. Hello! Excellent. I wonder if the guys in the tower I passed by can take pot shots as me as I'm walking by. I hope the answer is no. A stone of ephemeral eyes. Oh. These guys can take pot shots at me. Alright, I think I've got everything. We've got one more stop to make today. Alright, here is the second thing for us to do. We don't actually have to do this now. Can we? Seems like the answer is no. Alright, let's start grabbing items and see what happens. He does not seem to care. Alright. So he does care. He just can't be attacked. That's fine. At the very least, we survived that, which was very, very narrow. Let's have one, at least one, just for luck's sake. For now, though, let us go to the Nexus, see what items we have discovered. By the way, what did you think of the Red Dragon? Do you think it adds to the game? Is it more meaningful than I'm describing it to be? Or do you agree that it's a repetitive slog that you just kind of go through and you're done? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and have yourselves a good night.